Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon, and welcome to another Webinar Wednesday hosted by Cal State Bakersfield Small Business Development Center. Good afternoon. I'm Kelly Bearden. I'm your host and director of the SBDC, and we got a great topic again this week. I don't know how that happens, but one that's underutilized, and we really want more to see more of you benefit and use this great capital acquisition tool. And we're going to get into everything about crowdfunding that we could talk about in a short little hour or less. Today, on February 25th, 2026. And today it's about crowdfunding, and we have the resources for you. So, a lot going on in the crowdfunding space, underutilized. We're doing a lot at the SBDC. Our special guest today, James Thomsen, has a wonderful program he's going to be talking about. And of course, we're bringing somebody who has been there, who has done it. So, a crowdfunding expert. And so, we'll know more about that today. We'll talk about our Capital Quarter, our regular feature on Webinar Wednesday, and it'll actually get into a little bit more of the aspects of crowdfunding. So, some of the things that maybe we don't normally discuss or think about with crowdfunding. We'll glance at crowdfunding in service sectors. You know, a lot of what we've talked about in the past has been, and what Jim will talk about today is kind of geared toward those businesses that are in product manufacturing or marketing, pre-sales, etc. But it is also available in certain service sectors. And if you're a service business, we'll show you some of the service opportunities that may be out there. We'll do a quick recap today of a couple of disasters happening in Mono County. And this is how quick it's going to be. I'm going to cover it right now. There are two disasters in the county of Mono, and they are one of them is the pack fire that started around Thanksgiving. And the pack fire burned certain areas in the Crowley Lake area, Tom's Place, in that region of Mono County. So if you had some type of economic injury, the SBA has been actively working this. Their disaster unit has been in the field, and they have identified, I believe, all the people that were suffering injuries by the fire itself. But there's also the economic aspect of that. If their business was harmed and harmed significantly as far as from a cash flow perspective, you can get a injury economic loan. Yes, an economic injury disaster loan to be more specific. And that can help you with the cash flow aspects that you might have. The other fire, or excuse me, the other disaster was not a fire. So let's go from fire to ice. And that was a lot of massive snow and inclement weather that hampered the region of Mammoth Lakes and June Lakes, particularly, maybe up in the Vining a little bit. But in a large swath of the Eastern Sierra Range. And I think what it did was it created a lot of disastrous impacts for businesses up there. They were without power for a considerable period of time, and really the haymaking season for them. That was during the holiday break between Christmas and New Year's, and usually a very, very fruitful time. So there's the two disasters, and there's your quick recap. Our economic corner today is going to focus on a variety of different factors, different tools, different things going on there with the economic corner. And so we'll touch base on that. And hey, how about a new feature? A new feature on Webinar Wednesday. And we're going to call that for now AI and question mark. So we'll break out our new feature on AI and whatever I guess it is we want to talk about this particular Wednesday. And we'll be into that in a few moments. We will take your questions. So if you do have questions, jump in and answer, check your questions, get your questions in. And we will take your questions live after the presentation today. The resources today are going to be in the chat box. Got a lot of resources and just a couple of quick poll questions for you for today. So jumping into today's polls, the first poll is we're going to launch is going to be this one. Have you ever considered rewards-based crowdfunding, such as Kickstarter, for a service or even a product business. So for any business. So if you have considered it, yes, you've seriously considered it. Yes, casually, no, but you're curious. And no, I don't think it fits my business model. So our simple yes and no question right out of the gate is, have you ever considered rewards-based crowdfunding for your service or product-based business? So we do have a number of you reporting so far. We're getting up there. I'd like to see about 75% if you jump in and answer the particular question. And we're nearing that point. So we're going to go ahead and end the particular poll and share the results with you. And the results are no. 2/3 of you are no. But you're curious and want to find out more, so you're in the right place. And 1/3 of you, basically, roughly, are split between yes, seriously, or only casually. So let's get into more of that. And thank you for answering poll question number 1. And we'll open up poll question number 2. And poll question number 2 is, what is your biggest hesitation about crowdfunding? So a little market research that we're doing here at Webinar Wednesday. So what is your biggest hesitation? Not enough audience? Rewards fulfillment is a little bit complex. You're a little worried about that. Don't know if I'll succeed. Is it the time commitment that goes into it? Or is it some regulatory tax uncertainty that you might have with doing a campaign? So we're looking for your biggest hesitation about crowdfunding. Maybe you don't have enough audience. You don't have a big enough crowd. Maybe you're worried about fulfilling the rewards. Um, Maybe you don't know if you'll succeed. Or maybe it's the time and effort commitment that is so prevalent with crowdfunding and other areas of raising capital. Or is it the tax compliance issue? And we are going to give you one last second to jump in, and then we're going to end the poll with somewhat over 50% of you participating. We'll end the poll, share the results with you, and it's a little 60-40 today. You don't know if you'll succeed 60%. 40% are concerned about the regulatory tax. Well, we're definitely going to give you enough information to show you how you can succeed today. Might not talk much about the regulatory tax today, but thank you for participating, and let's move right along. So, our capital quarter today, which is our look at accessing capital, is pretty much tied into this particular topic. We are in crowdfunding, which is a capital topic. So, one of the things that we will look into is the fact that it's often looked at is not always your prime source of capital. If you're looking to start a business and it's going to cost you, say $100,000 to get that up and going, that could be a difficult ask in crowdfunding. But one thing that we see is that it's really valuable when you want to leverage it in order to obtain more capital. The thing that is important to note that when you're crowdfunding, the proceeds are essentially capital. They're a down payment toward another loan. So most lenders that we work with on lending programs, they're going to want, say, 20% down. If you were able to crowdfund $30,000, then that could be a down payment in order to leverage a lot more capital. So use it as a down payment mechanism to get more capital and to complete the entire picture. And that'll be information that'll be helpful when Jim presents today. So the other thing, and Jim will probably mention this even more, is crowdfunding is oftentimes it's complementary capital, but also it is really good from a marketing standpoint to validate your market before you go into business. Also run your marketing engine and use it as a customer acquisition tool. So those are important factors that I know Jim will mention, and really important enough to mention twice today. So one thing, oftentimes we talk a lot about products and other types of business, pre-sales of manufactured products, for example, other things. But in Kickstarter rewards-based crowdfunding campaigns, the question comes up oftentimes, oh, what can I do as service? So here are the service sectors that are the best fit for crowdfunding. And one is we look at hospitalities and we look at restaurants, and that could be any type of food service. Seen a lot of food trucks that were crowdfunded, seen some brick and mortar locations, breweries, although that particular segment is becoming harder hit. You have a higher likelihood of success. And the reasoning behind that is you have community tangible rewards that you can offer. And it kind of brings the community together that you're working out of and makes it easier to actually receive and to get that success. Some of the other sectors that are in the service industry are creative and media. So those are basically project-based deliverables and creative and media. We're talking about hope could be anything from a podcast to a documentary film or something on the creative side of things. Again, a high level of success. You know, we see fitness studios that are succeeding at a moderate high rate. And a lot of that is because of membership pre-sale. And I think the perfect example of that is let's say you have a high-end Pilates studio or something, or maybe a yoga studio, or maybe other fitness thing that really works well with access to that particular club, and a membership pre-sale works really well with that particular situation. Educational programs. Yes, moderate level of success. So, and oftentimes that is cohort funding to actually maybe join the educational program, but some very specific educational programs out there could be crowdfunded as a part of a service sector receiving crowdfunding funds. And then also is the professional services, which has a lower to moderate. And I really think that with some creativity, there is a lot more that can be done. And the reason it is low to moderate is because it is harder to package the benefits. It is harder to package the rewards or to consider the rewards other than a potential membership pre-sale or other type of pre-sale. But I think really there is some creativity that can be done in professional services to lead toward more of a community feel and more toward other aspects that make it easier to actually fund. So across those particular five sectors that we just talked about, what backers funded. So there's the five sectors we just discussed. Oftentimes in hospitality, it was the build out and the experience that was funded. Creativity was a finished project from soup to nuts, as Maureen likes to say. Fitness, we have founding access, and it's really getting that access from the ground floor. I know maybe a fitness center location that's going to be happening, and I'd really like to see a crowdfunding happen with that here in Bishop. So maybe we'll see that down the road. Also, education, the tools and training access, and maybe that's access to some of the high-end tools. Maybe it's AI generated, maybe it's not. And maybe, you know, some of the other things that happen with that community space as far as that sector of professional services, which is a little bit harder. And oftentimes that is the community space that they're funding, consulting retainers, et cetera, that are maybe prepaid in advance. So there's some of the potential services that can be funded. I really do want to reach out and really want to see how that could be more creative for professional services. So AI and question mark. So today our question mark fill in the blank is going to be AI and the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve, of course, is important from the standpoint of they set interest rates, they set monetary policy, they try to regulate inflation and a lot of things that are really important to small businesses. But in a conversation with the San Francisco Federal Reserve President Mary Daly, she said that monetary policy is in a good place and that officials at the central bank have said that AI construction, because there's this AI construction that's going on with all this AI funding, a lot of it's in construction for electricity and electricity power plants and communities. But there's a concern that all of that construction could actually have inflationary pressures up, and so we could see more inflation than we have been seeing, but those have not surfaced as of yet. Oftentimes when considering the impact of AI will have on monetary policy, the Fed has said that they will have a balancing policy. And that balancing policy will not constrain the economy. It won't hamper the economy. But at this point, they say they do not feel comfortable about loosening policy to the point of actually lowering rates to the point it is in disregard of its targets for inflation. So there's how AI is affecting a big segment of the economy and affecting interest rates that, as a small business owner, you are probably paying today. So some community service announcements coming soon to a webinar near you. Maybe we'll have this in another month or so. Is we're going to have the return of the current economic journal. Yes, let's get the experts in here. So don't hear about our economic corner from me. Let's bring in either our resident economist or one of the fine economists from the School of Business and Public Administration at Cal State Bakersfield. There's a lot going on with AI University through our America's SBDC program, and we have a lot of different states that are participating in student engagement projects. We have one right now that we're just jumping into head over heels, and that's working with a lot of restaurants and a lot of the things that AI tools can really assist in generating businesses and really increase your sales, increase a lot of the information that you have to make key decisions in your food business. So working with our group of experienced senior level advisors that are paired with our CSUB student advising team on our restaurant crowdfunding and also our restaurant team, it's really good that you can email me and get actually access to that particular program. Come all ye restaurants. Our SBDC tools to assist your business succeed. We have our toolbox, of course. And one of our toolbox items is Vertical IQ, which is kind of a great program. It is a program to where your SBDC advisor can sit down with you and get some phenomenal industry analysis inside and out on how your business is performing in your particular industry, things that maybe your industry competitors are doing that you don't know about, a lot of different tools. And to find out all those tools coming up next week. Next week, we're going to have Vertical IQ in the house is doing industry analysis, showing the benefits for your small business, how it can financially tune up your small business. I can't recommend this enough. I can't recommend going through the financial side of things and really looking at what is out there. So that's coming up on March 4th. On March 11th, we're going to have, well, it's called right now Financing Secrets from a Franchisee. So stay tuned to learn more on franchising on March the 11th. Another tool where you can get all of these, most of these webinars, I should say, is in our CSUB YouTube channel. And there's our YouTube channel, 523 subscribers. At our most recent look, 330 videos. You can get basically this webinar today. We'll be joining the ranks there in just a few short days. Manufacturing businesses. If you're looking to learn how to start a manufacturing business, the U.S. Small Business Administration, the Fresno District Office is the place to be tomorrow. Online, scan the QR code. This is an online workshop through their online platform. A lot of things to learn and a lot of things that you would want to know if you are starting a manufacturing business. To sign up for confidential, no cost obligation expert consulting at the Small Business Development Center in Kern, Inyo, and Mono counties, go to our website, csubsbdc.com. Or Google it. You'll get the same result, possibly. And sign up today. Which brings us to our special guest today. And our special guest is James Thomsen. And Jim is an SBDC consultant. He's also the CAO of the chief, or excuse me, he's the chair of the board, is what he is, of the Yosemite Climbing Association. But he has specialized in business management an entire career, including prior stints as the president of Outdoor International at VF Corporation. He's responsible for acquisitions that included Eastpak, Vans, Kipling, North Face, and others. Jim started in the outdoor industry. Ooh, the indoor industry would be a lot different. Working with legendary Dick Kelty backpacks, managed the store, took it over, actually jumped in with his brother and took the Wilderness Experience public in 1980, which was, I believe, the first outdoor recreation actually business to go public. Mountaineering stores, large sail representative business. Jim retired, purchased a boat, sailed, came back, was fascinated by crowdfunding. So, a lot of today's story you're going to get is what Jim came back after he got off the boat and actually learned about Kickstarter and what a great tool it is, an underutilized tool by businesses. Jim, it's great to have you on Webinar Wednesday. Thank you for joining us and take it away, please.
Well, as Kelly just said, crowdfunding is definitely underutilized. But I think one of the incredible things with crowdfunding is it's one of the few things you can do to raise a pretty substantial amount of money when you don't have anything other than your own time and your own work to put into it. It's a very low investment in dollars. It's a very high investment in time and effort. Uh, but it kind of forces you to think through a lot of the issues that you should be thinking through if you're going to be running a business. So I'm going to go through a quick guide here of the different steps that you do. There's four different models that are generally for crowdfunding. One is just asking for donations, and of course, a lot of you have seen the different ones that have come out when people get hurt or need money for some other reasons. You can do a crowdfunding where it's basically people are giving you money because they really care about you or they feel bad for you and want to help you. Then there's rewards, and that's where I'll spend most of the time. That's where you're actually either making a product or maybe a service, and you're giving people different types of awards for giving you money. So you may have a thing if you're going to make, and one of mine I'm going to do is talking about making a backpack. The first level of awards at a low amounts of money people could put in, maybe just got them a photograph. At a little more, you got a T-shirt. More than that, you actually got the backpack, and it kept stepping up in different amounts of rewards. So you're trying to convince somebody not only because they can help you and help you get your business going, but they will get something in return. There is crowdfunding for equity, and I have never worked on one personally. I did invest in one recently of a ski or an outdoor clothing line, ski line called Wild Rye, and they were doing pretty well over the years, the last 5 or 6 years. But with tariffs and other issues, they realized they didn't have enough money to build the inventory and the other things they needed to do. So they did an equity funding, and I believe they raised about $6 million, and you could come in as low as $250 as an equity position. It's, from my point of view, it's probably never going to pay off. And by the time they sell the company or something, it's too far in my timeline. But I did it because I really liked what they're doing. I don't know the people, but I just thought they did such a great job, so I wanted to invest in them. And then you can ask even for debt, which is another type of crowdfunding that I've never worked with, so I don't know how that works. Um, but really, what you're trying to do with a crowdfunding thing is the key word there is crowd. You need a bunch of people that want to support you for whatever the reason is, and you have to convince them that you're trustworthy and it's something you definitely want to be able to do. There's a bunch of work, especially the pre-launch and launching. That takes a lot of work. After that, it's sort of follow up and making sure that it really works out okay. And then I'll kind of go through some of the normal failure modes. So here's the four different ones. And if you look at the top one, nonprofit, that's one that I will cover a little later. That's one that I'm currently working on for the Yosemite Climbing Association, where we're going to do a film festival, and we're doing a Kickstarter fundraising for the festival. So it's not really a product. they'll get different perks for different amounts of money. You'll get posters or T-shirts or free tickets to the film festival, but there's no product associated with it. So that's different than anything I've ever done before. The most common that I've seen is the product, where you're coming out like I did with a backpack, and you're saying this is a great thing, and if you give me little bits of money just because you think it's cool, you'll get a T-shirt or a poster or something. But if you give me the $100 or $150, you're going to get these different levels of a backpack. And usually the prices are good. They're better than what will later be on if you continue as a business. They're better than what you'll pay retail at some point in the future. So it's you know it's a pretty neat thing. The other two that I don't know that much about is that the Wild Rye one, where you're raising money on crowdfunding. And part of their reasoning, and in some of the meetings I was on, Zoom meetings with them, they had venture capitalist investors also in the meetings who were looking at the company, realized if they could raise, the 5 or 6 million they were trying to do, step it to the next level, then they, as venture capitalists, would come in at much more money to grow them more. So it was a way of taking a successful, very small company to the level that you could get venture capital money to support you becoming much larger. And the last one is there is venture capital just for loans, which again I've never worked with, but where you could basically, it's a legal way of putting out bonds at a higher interest rate than people can get from a bank, but better than you can probably get on loans. Important if you're going to do a product, or in my case, the film festival, it's a market test. If you can't get people to be excited about your program enough to support you on Kickstarter or whatever. And I'm going to mainly focus on Kickstarter because that's the one I've done the most with. But it's a way, especially with a product, if you're really doing it, you could see whether people actually care about that product. And I'll have an example later of somebody that was a product that was borderline, didn't know if it would work or not, but his Kickstarter program was so successful that it's really obvious that he's got a market built for it. Besides the market, you also build up a community of people if you're successful. If you come up with something, people give money to you to support it, you actually deliver a great product to them, they're going to think you're really wonderful and follow you in the future. Maybe it'll be a product that ends up in retail stores in the future or online sales. Or in the case, there's one example of Peak Performance that is, and I don't know how large the company is now, but I'm sure it's in the 80 no, 50 to 80 million dollars, something like that. Pretty large company. I'm just guessing at that size though. But they started with Kickstarter for their first products when they had very little money. And then they've used Kickstarter for launching almost every new product category. So they built up this group of people that love what they're doing, and they will come out with new products all the time. And they've been doing this for 5 or 6 years now. And they'll sell way more than enough to both find out if it's a product that's worthwhile that they should be pushing, and also to get the money to help them be able to do it. So it's an interesting method of not a one-time use, but a future use. Um, what happens is there's no investors on this. People are putting in amounts of money that they definitely can afford to lose, hopefully. So if you're putting in $100 or $150 for something, the risk really is on you and your backers to make sure it's successful so it does work. And it takes work to do that, but if you can do it, you really can end up with a group of people who love your products, and you can also have a way of raising money to keep going. But you got to make sure you can actually, make it all work. So basically, I have 6 steps in here on that. First off, you're going to talk about what backers are going to get. Part of it may be that they just love what you're doing, and send $50 to you is just something they're really happy to do because they want to see you succeed. There's a lot of Kickstarter programs for board games are a really big category today, but people do it for books they want to put out, for photography, for documentary films, quite a few different areas. So you're telling backers what they're going to get, and it could go anywhere from I'm just happy to send you a little money so you succeed to wow, I really want a copy of that book and I'm willing to pay a lot more. And then you have to tell people why you could actually make it do it. It's really easy to say I want to make a documentary film about something, but you better have reasons why you've actually, done something like that before, or at least are trained in how to film and how to do it, and that you have an idea that you actually could find the people to be able to be interviewed and all that. So you have to prove that you can do it. If it's a product, you have to come up with enough reasons why you're convinced you can actually make that product and succeed at it. Um, and, and so that's what you're trying to do, convince your backers. And then you want to set out a plan that says, first off, we'll have the goal with Kickstarter. And then to do that, our next goal is we'll put it into production and then we'll get it back and then we'll deliver it to all the backers that have a product coming to them. So you need the plan. One of the things with Kickstarter, and this is not true with every crowdfunding um, platform, is that Kickstarter, you set a goal. So let's say you set a goal of $20,000. And if you do not raise that much with people backing you, if it only comes in at 16,000 or something, you get nothing. So as a backer, you could say, well, I'll put in $100, but if they don't get to the goal, they never charge you a credit card. So you put in nothing. If you hit that goal and exceed that goal or whatever, and you set the goal, you can set it wherever you want. You don't want to set it too low because you really, if you need more money to make it work, but you want to set it a goal that would be realistic to hit, and then you get the money. So that's pretty important. You want to make sure, and this is where a lot of ones fail. When they talk about people failing at Kickstarter programs, a lot of the failure has nothing to do with raising the money or anything. It's the fact that you said, I'm going to be able to make this backpack and you can get it and give me $50 and you'll get it. And then you find out there's no possibility of making it for that price, and definitely no possibility of making it for that price and paying shipping and everything else. So you need to make sure that you have all your costs figured out with enough contingency to make sure it really works. How to reach those people. The ideal way is to build a mailing list in advance. When I did my backpack, which was about 5 years ago, we did lots of Facebook ads and some Instagram ads and built up a mailing list, and then even had a mailing list of people that were super excited that we said we will send you out notice that it's going live on Kickstarter the day before, and there'll be special limited editions. So maybe the first 50 packs that sold were at a lower price. And so you want to make sure that you have a lot of momentum. Really critical in any crowdfunding thing to have that momentum happen early. Kickstarter says the most successful ones usually raise about a third of their money in the first couple days. So you need to make sure that your friends and your parents and anybody else you know that may give you money all do it on that first day. So it jumps up and you hit above that 30% range. If it happens fast, besides future people looking and going, well, this, a whole lot of other people think this is cool, so I probably do too. And also, at Kickstarter, they'll promote different campaigns that are very successful. And then once you get having it happen, and even during the campaign, but definitely after the campaign closes, is to keep people informed of what you're doing and giving them updates on how things are working correctly and how things are not working correctly. But you want them to feel like they're really part of what you're doing. Top things you need to do. This is where Kickstarter, if you've ever looked at one, and if you haven't, it's worth going on their site and picking up a category that you think is kind of fun. In that first 30 seconds, just like most ads, you need to sell a few things immediately. One is, what is your value proposition? You're going to get a backpack for this money. You're going to get free ticket, or not free, you're going to get tickets to the film festival for this much money. So you need to hit that really fast. And then you need to show that it really exists, especially with a product. You should have a prototype and you should have the information so you can actually demonstrate what it is. And then you want to set tiers for the different amounts of money people would possibly give you. So the lower level, maybe just you get a t-shirt, or you just get a postcard, or you get something at a low level. At some point you get the product, which would be a lot more money, or in my case with my film festival, it'll be VIP tickets and things. But then there'll be higher levels that most people won't do, but they may be could be $1,000, but it gives you maybe a dinner with the founders of the company and VIP tickets and whatever you can put in. And even on a lot of Kickstarter ones, those high ones maybe sell one or two, but it's something to at least show a list of things you can do for any amount of money that you're willing to do. And maybe it's $10 for just getting your name listed on their website. super critical on Kickstarter and with all other ones too is a good video that tells the whole story. And I think the critical thing here is if you look at the statistics from Kickstarter, it doesn't have to be super professional. A lot of people think they need that really have somebody professionally do it for them, but you don't need that. You can just do it yourself. And some of the best ones are just shot on an iPhone by a couple people, not professional at all. The whole key thing is to come across as true, real people that you can trust. And if you can do that in a simple video and make the people like you and trust you, that's all it really takes. We were talking about those different tiers. You don't want very many. Kickstarter says 3 to 6, and that probably makes sense. So the 6 is usually one that's up in the $300, $500, something like that, where you get a lot for it. And so that may be the highest. And the lower should be in that $10 to $20 range, where it's just people who think you're cool and want to give you some money, and they don't expect getting anything back. But you want to make the ones in the middle be really neat value, whether it's, VIP tickets to a film festival or the backpack you're making or whatever it is. And then you could set stretch goals. So if you set your goal at 20,000 that you think you're going to get for sure, that's how much you really need to make the product. You may exceed that, and lots of Kickstarter programs exceed that. And you can list stretch goals. Like for the film festival, we'll have stretch goals for people that will want to have cash amounts grants that we can give to young people who want to make documentary films. And so things like that are beyond what we need to do to run the festival. But if people are really excited about backing us, we have a use for more money than the 20,000 or whatever we're asking for. Uh, right before your pre-launch, the things that are important is to make sure you've got that story really close and tight, and you've built up a mailing list, hopefully in advance, or a big following on social media, or whatever it is. So when you put it out, a lot of people see it right away and hopefully share it right away. You want to line up people that will share it for you. Like with the film festival, this one is related, my film festival is related to climbing. So we'll try to get lots of big name climbers to share it on their social media platforms to get it out to a lot more people than we could ever do. Before you put it live, you want to try it with a few of the people that you think might be willing to support you. And you can put it up 10 and you'll find out people say, well, wow, I really, I was willing to give you $100, but you really had no tier for $100. The below that was not worth it. And above that, it jumped too high and it was more than I was willing to pay or whatever. But having a few people that know that would be interested looking at it is really critical. Biggest thing that people really miss on this is going live before they have that either good mailing list or good social media followers and those sort of things. You want to make sure when it comes out, a whole lot of people see it. And so that's where it's a lot of work in advance. You start running Facebook posts way before this event. You start building a mailing list so that when you launch it, you're already going to hit a bunch of people, and those committed people are going to get you up over that 30% or so that first day. So just in what happens in the days that, first couple of days is hitting it to that all the contacts that you have lined up and getting that first big jump in there so it looks like you're going to be successful. Then the next week or so is you want to make sure you stay on that. Keep, putting out your posts all the time and even emails all the time and giving people the updates. Say, wow, we've already hit, 70% of our goal. We're actually thinking now we're going to go to our stretch goals, which will allow us to make more colors in the product or whatever it is. So that time you want to stay really attached and communicating with all the people who are following you. And then after that, you need to just stay on that and figure out what's happening. Maybe Facebook ads are not helping you at all. Maybe just Facebook posts are. Maybe Instagram is getting you more people. You got to watch that. And you can set the length of your Kickstarter program. And I believe it's still 60 days maximum. But you don't want to make it too long because you don't want somebody to look at it and go, wow, this is really cool. I should look at it next month and see if I want to do it. So you want to set it short enough to try to make sure it happens, but you want to make it long enough that you actually can hit your money. And there's a lot of information on Kickstarter of what they think is the best combination there. Things to watch for is when you do a product to make sure you actually think you can make it work. What if you design that you're going to say this backpack and and you don't have any idea who's going to make it for you. You just have this belief that you can get it made for some cost. You want to make sure that you actually have that. And a lot of failures are that people put out things at a price that they just think a jacket, they should be able to make a nice jacket for $100, and get everybody excited about it because it's a super deal at $100. But then they find out that's totally impossible. So you have to make sure you understand what you're doing, that you have suppliers that will actually be able to make it. Because if people give them money, if you don't deliver, they just lose the money. You don't have to pay people back, which is a huge advantage for you. It's a disadvantage for people investing in hoping to get a product. You want to make sure that you have all your costs really figured out, because and your timelines, to make sure that you are super successful. Because first off, you have people really happy, and if you decide to do a future Kickstarter, you've got people that really see that you did a great job. So once you finish the thing, hopefully you've thought it out enough and your product gets shipped out right away. One of the things I did with my backpack is right before I was ready to ship it, we wrote to all the people to confirm their mailing address, but then also said, hey, we're going to ship this tomorrow, but if you want a t-shirt too, you can have one for $20. And we raised another, it was $8,000 or $10,000 on top of what we had raised before, just on the people that tagged on things before our shipping date. Um, Big problems that happen, or the things that make you fail, is your rewards are such a great deal that you can't make money on them. So you have people giving you $100 for the backpack, but it costs you 150 by the time you make it and ship it. So that's obviously not going to work for you. You have too many tiers where it's confusing, and maybe some of those things that you were planning on making, you sell so few of, you can no longer afford to make them at a reasonable price. Like t-shirts, if you sell less than 100 or so, you're going to pay a lot higher price than if you could sell more than 100. So you have to really think those through. You also want to think that the the stretch goals, that should be a little minor thing you stick on for some cool things. Like what we'll do at the film festival is grants for young people that want to make films. But if you have stretch goals that are too extreme, people are going to think you have no idea what you're doing, and you probably don't. Uh, so that's the things to really watch, to be careful. Important one is be conservative on timelines. People don't care. If you say uh, we're going to close on March 30th, and we're going to then put them in production. It's going to get done in June and July. We'll ship sometime in September or October. People aren't going to care about that. They'll care if you say, I'm going to ship by July, and you don't do it. So you want to make sure that you're conservative enough and you're positive you can make those things happen. So just kind of went through these. What you need to do is make sure that you know what you're going after. You're just looking for donations, which could happen. And kind of the film festival for me is kind of donations. Well, it's more people who want to support us doing a film festival than what they'll get for it. Then make sure you know who your target audience is. Are these people that, first off, again, for film festival, it has to be people that would be willing to come to Yosemite to come to a film festival. So we're not going to get a lot of international people, I'm sure, in doing it, and probably not a lot of people from outside of California. But if you're going to make a product, it could be people who want that backpack anywhere in the United States, uh, or even international if you want to go that stream on it. So just make sure you know who you're doing and why they would buy that. Um, you want to make sure it's simple for them to decide at what level to do, because once somebody's on Kickstarter, they're not going to want to spend a whole lot of time thinking about it. They're going to want to come in, think, wow, I'm going to give $100. It's a cool thing. If I get it, it's going to be really neat, and do it. So you want to make sure that it's simple to understand, and that you have not only all your manufacturing costs and all those things figured out, but how are you going to deliver this? If you sell, like I sold, 800 backpacks, I could not have sent those myself. That would have taken me weeks and weeks. I did the whole Kickstarter program without using any outside help at all, other than friends reading and telling me what I was doing wrong. But I did everything. And uh, there's no way you could pack up that many things and ship. So make sure you understand, if you're successful, how much work is behind it, and that you'll be able to afford to do it. And then after you do it, just because you may do it in the future and do another one in the future, follow up with people, ask their opinion, ask their opinion about how the experience of Kickstarter worked for them, what things they would have liked different, what other products, maybe if you're really thinking about it as the beginning of a business, what other products you may want to do in the future. And if it's a great way, as Kelly had said on this, you could have no money at all, decide that you're going to start making a product. You could do a Kickstarter program, raise enough money to make that product. And if it's successful and you have the market for it and you can show you can actually make it, it's going to be very easy to go get loans to be able to let you grow that business in the future. So it's a really cool thing. And the last one, just because you should go to Kickstarter and send us some money for our Yosemite Film Festival. I'm putting those on there.
Hey, fantastic. It looks like you've changed the date to the film festival,
Yeah,
though.
this is still incorrect. The dates are now the last weekend in June, which is
Great.
so much better.
And the film festival, is we are working with Jim with a couple of our student interns, and we're finding AI tools to make this entire process or easier. And so we're learning a lot also by a lot of the shortcuts that can be made by AI and a lot of the things that are happening. So, do jump in and do, if you have the opportunity, take advantage of our crowdfunding teams through our student intern program. So Jim's going to now go to the website, I believe, and show you a thing or two online, show some of these programs online. In the meantime, what I'll do is I'll just briefly, ever so briefly, I will share what I like to call a brief case study. So it's a case study, but it's a brief one. A brief case study, and this was on BrewDog, which was a equity crowdfunding. Jim talked about equity crowdfunding, which is another program that we really had so much high hopes for. We thought this was going to revolutionize small business funding. And it hasn't materialized into that, but here is a successful application. And this was one that kind of mirrored a Kickstarter campaign. Remember, Kickstarter is a rewards based to where you do funding and then give the donors rewards. Hopefully, the rewards come in at maybe 20% or so or less. And you're able to grab that. So just real quickly, as this was a community-funded expansion, a BrewDog, it was a service business in the hospitality industry, from actually a brew pub, and they actually raised millions via community-based crowdfunding rounds. So they had a strong identity, somewhat of a cult following. It was clear use of funds. They identified they wanted tap rooms, production expansions, and their rewards would be exclusively beer access, shareholder perks, and events. So the takeaways from that, the key takeaway is that even though structured as equity crowdfunding, mirroring a Kickstarter campaign and having community ownership, experiential rewards, and strong local identity was really successful in order to do this and move it forward. So that's what I have. And I'm going to stop and let Jim share his internet-based part of his presentation. So take it away, Jim, again.
Okay, is that on the screen now? Kickstarter. This is the one I did for the backpack, and you can see that my goal was $20,000, and I raised 37,000 on that. And this is a single model of backpack. It was actually a design that we did back in the 1970s. That was a very big seller, and I thought it would be a fun retro program to do. Did hang tags, did the marketing, pictures of our original factory from 1974, and then we did a video, which I won't turn up, but it's about 3 minutes long, and it obviously was very, very successful. You can see that I did tiers of $5 just get a thank you, 10 got you, I'm not sure, not much else, and then t-shirts at 25, and we did a little briefcase at 30, and then all the way up to where you could buy the pack for 125 or 150 for better ones. And that was sort of a different level. And we had it spread pretty evenly through the whole range up to, I think, $1,000. Nobody did that, but up to $300 for that. So that was a really interesting program that I did 100%, all the photography, everything else myself. And it was really fun to see it. see it succeed. One that I is brand new that I just did recently is this is the guy I met. We run a big event in Yosemite Valley, the cleanup event, and this guy had a little gripper thing on his that he made for hiking poles that you could pick up trash without bending over. And but he had come up with the idea. He was an engineer, but he wasn't sure, didn't know how to go to find a company or anybody that might help him on that. But he did this with a $40,000 goal, and as you can see, raised $64,000. He currently is in production with having all the parts molded and made and everything. And beyond this is more than enough for him to supply all the ones that people bought and to give him pay for all the development and the required molds and everything else. And he's built up a number of retailers and online places that want to sell it also. So he hasn't made this. He just completed this pretty recently, maybe a couple of months ago, and it's all in production now. But I think he's going to be with basically he didn't have money. He had a nice job, but he did not have the money to do this. And now he's going to be able to create a very good company here without without money. And if he decides it'll be good, he could probably sell it and or expand it into other products. But it's a really cute idea, and he did all this himself, and the filming and everything else. So he didn't spend any money doing the whole thing. The only money he spent was on Facebook ads, and so that's kind of the main ones. We did one for the Yosemite Climbing Museum, and this was a few years ago when we were just opening the museum and trying to raise money to afford to do it. And we had a goal of 21,000, and we raised 36,000. And we used photographs that are historic climbing photographs that we were able to make the different tiers for. So at $35 to $55, you got different size, really nicely printed photographs, and that was really our only tier was different levels of photographs and posters. But it really worked out really well, and obviously we were very successful and it worked. So that's kind of the overall ideas. If you go on Kickstarter, you'll see a million other ones that you could look at and come out with so many ideas. To me, again, it's a way of starting a business with only really great ideas and willing to put in a bunch of time. You'll learn so much that it's worthwhile. And it means that you can start a business today without having money in advance, which in the past years would not have been possible. So that's it's a pretty cool thing. And as Kelly has said, I'd love to see more people do it, and contact Kelly and us, and we'll really help you do it because we think it's a good thing.
Yeah, we do like it. We do think it's underutilized. Jim, real quickly, your upcoming campaign, you're going to have another one with the Yosemite Climbing Association. That's what you've been working on with our ACE level student interns from CSUB, and
Yes.
really kind of utilizing a lot of AI tools and really kind of a blueprint. Is that blueprint is going to come out of this to where then we can work with other businesses, and you're available to work with businesses as an advisor through the SBDC. So really, the resources here are just plentiful for succeeding in this particular area. But just mention briefly the campaign that'll be coming out within probably the next month or so on your film festival that's coming up in late June.
Right. We are organizing the first film festival ever really held in Yosemite Valley itself, in Yosemite National Park. And we're a climbing organization, and so we'll have climbing movies, but mainly we're looking at films that are, adventure and, stewardship related. It'll be 4 days long, and we'll have two theaters going. So it's a pretty big, complicated operation. And part of the both to build excitement for it and to get people interested in spreading it, plus to get a little bit of money to help cover the cost of it, we're doing the Kickstarter program and using the interns that Kelly has set up. They've done an incredible job. And today with AI, when I did mine, I would look at went on Kickstarter, looked at past ones, tried to figure out what works and doesn't work. Today, you can just ask AI to go look at all the film festival Kickstarter programs and see the successful ones and help create one based on all the successes they've been, what things worked and what things didn't work, as far as all the other things we can do to reach out to people. And we're doing one of the guys is one of the interns is doing the video for us, and he contacted a few of the big filmmakers that make especially documentary films and adventure films, and has them recorded. He just had them shoot themselves with an iPhone at wherever they happen to be, and is putting together a whole video on that, which I think, because a lot of people, at least from the outdoor adventure world, will know the names of these people, and I think that will really help us do it. And we'll raise money, which will guarantee that we can do a lot of things we want to do when we first start off, and to be able to bring in some of the best top filmmakers and to show it. And we're getting a lot of response just because we've been talking about it, and it's going to be fun to see how it works, because I've never done a non-product related Kickstarter. So
Great. Hey, Jim, join me and let's see what questions we might have. We do have one question so far. If you have a question, jump in right now and see what we got. Um, so question number one is, I'm developing a family indoor playground. Currently in the planning and funding stage. For a business like this, what would you prioritize before launching a Kickstarter campaign?
uh, okay, not knowing exactly what you're looking at there, but if it's product related, where there's certain products that are part of the indoor playground, that's a perfect to do a crowdfunding campaign on, because depending, again, I don't know your project, but if there's different levels, that maybe just tie perfectly. You get certain playground items at these different levels, and you get more at higher levels, and you build up a really exciting story about what if you had everything. I'm making this up without knowing what you're doing, but it seems to me to be an ideal crowdfunded. But
Yeah, for what I would do is I would sign up at the SBDC as a client, and then what we would do is we would assign you to Jim, and you can Zoom with Jim because Jim is located quite a ways from you. But I think that just knowing the blueprint on how this Kickstarter campaign would succeed, and for you having a family indoor playground, I would see it could be a lot of your rewards could be subscription pre-sales, could be different kind of pre-sales and rewards for access to the playground and priority access and VIP access. So a lot of the rewards will probably go with a enhanced visit to the indoor playground. But I really encourage you to work with Jim, and Jim will tune you into our SBDC, CSUB interns, and then we can proceed on down the road.
and I definitely highly recommend the interns that Kelly has set up, because they're learning so much of the most up-to-date information. And I'm sorry, I always think it was indoor playground equipment, but an actual indoor playground could be a super fun thing.
Yeah, and I think that that could work. That could definitely work with a Kickstarter campaign done right. Got to have the crowd. You got to bring your crowd, Les. So that was a question. Just going through real quick the particular chat area, the chat box. And thank you, Maureen, for the links that you have. It's for starting off. Of course, we have a welcome. And then jumping through the chat, there are resources you can grab right now and utilize as far as email me if you have an AI particular project. You want to start, there's opportunity there. There's the link for signing up for SBDC services. Again, free, confidential, and no obligation. Um, there's our YouTube channel link, SBA webinar tomorrow, crowdfunding pre-launch checklist. Definitely grab that. A little bit on Jim's campaigns that have worked, proven campaigns that have worked in the past, and the campaign for the Yosemite Climbing Association, which the one coming up is not live yet. Jim, any last comments as before we wrap things up?
No, but if you want to know about the film festival, you could send right now. It's easiest just to send an email to Kelly or me, and get that. We'll get you on our mailing list, or
And
follow it on Facebook.
And once the campaign is open, we will have you come in and do a quick update, maybe one of our live look-ins on Webinar Wednesday on what's going on and what's happening with the campaign and things like that. So, Jim, always a pleasure. It's great being
Uh,
able to spend the last couple of days with you. And great to know that we've got the solution for crowdfunding. We've got it dialed. So you bring the crowd, you bring the project. I think we can get you funded. So for Jim Thomsen over here in the wonderful Eastern Sierra, I'm Kelly Bearden. We'll be back next week with Webinar Wednesday 373 on Vertical IQ, that fantastic industry-based program. We'll have it straight from the executives and experts at Vertical IQ. Nicole will be joining us next week. So everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Goodbye, everybody.